Good morning all. My topic is testers manifest in the context of front-end technology trends. Today my topic is vested around some new technical transformations that has happened to front ends of enterprise level applications that we may get used in our day-to-day lives. And especially for people like us, it would be very important in particular to know the inside out of them with its pros and cons. Therefore, let's get into it one by one. So this is my today's agenda: introduction, evolvement of the tech stack, and living up to the technology transformation. So can you guess the difference? Integration testing, that is what all of you know. It's a testing type. So the integration testing is a type of testing meant to check the combinations of different units, their interactions, the way subsystems unite into one common system, and code compatibility with the requirements. But what is testing integration? That is when you get to face all these new front-end technological waves. Therefore, you should know what is testing integration. In simple terms, it is the way you need to test an integration. Then let's get a bit deeper. What do you mean by integration here? Integration is basically a combination of two components. In our context, those two components could be anything. Think a little and I will give you an example. Take Google Chrome. I think every one of us who are here today listening to this must have at least used it once in his lifetime. If you did, purposely or unknowingly, you have faced this situation. I will give an example. Have you installed any extension or plugin to your Chrome browser? There itself, you have an integration. If you happen to be a tester or a developer in Google, you should have developed or tested that integration. So, when you get to test such an integration, be it anywhere, you do that. The points that I'm going to present you are very useful. Evolvement of the tech stack. As IT people, it is very important for us to associate with the cutting edge technologies. My topic today mainly revolves around UIs. So they should be rich in effectiveness and efficiency because lot of end users are mainly engaging with the application front ends. Therefore, they should look nicer, not only in its facades, but in their functionalities as well. People at Facebook are the pioneers who proactively reacted to this demand. I meant not the users like us, but the development team they had. They introduced a technology called React. It's a JavaScript library that is used to build fast and interactive user interfaces. Actually, Facebook is a single page application. And do you know what it is? As you could see in the diagram, there is a major difference between traditional client-server architecture to single page application. In single page application, as the response of the initial HTML request, server sends the whole chunk of HTML to the client side. No subsequent HTML requests are being sent thereafter the server. Everything that is happening will be handled inside the client browser through cache. Since there are no frequent server calls, such applications tend to render and respond faster, and no browser reloads when navigated through the pages. Everything will be managed by the client browser. Only the initial page loads take a bit more time than that of traditional application. Overall, all user experience will be enhanced by this feature. So that is why single page applications are mainly CSR based or client server rendering based. Let's look at some advantages and disadvantages of SPA or that single page applications. The main advantages are its rich user experience and performance improvement. To test performance improvement, we can use the simple tool like Google Lighthouse. I will show you a small overview kind of in a demo. So Google Lighthouse is again a plugin or extension to Chrome, like in my Chrome extension example earlier. So go to the Chrome browser. So I have installed that Google Lighthouse to my Chrome. I go to the Chrome browser, run the Lighthouse report upon analyzing, and Lighthouse will provide you with a high-level report. Okay, so let's execute this on Facebook and with the application of booknow.lk. So Facebook is a single page application and this site is a traditional application. So go to Facebook and click on this generate report, and this is the single page application report, and now this is traditional application. Do the same thing. So see the difference of each parameter. This is the single page application report. This is a traditional application report. See the difference of each parameter. Some of it is due to the latest front-end technologies that they are using at Facebook, such as they are React CSR based front-ends. So you can see the difference clearly. So far we have talked a lot about advantages, but it too has drawbacks as well. The main thing is, for a single page application to work, JavaScript needs to be enabled. In case of a JavaScript failure, the whole thing will be down. You can see it for yourself as well, and also let's do it and see. Again, I'm going to exit from the presentation. Go to Facebook. I said previously that it's a single page application. Turn off the JavaScript of your browser. For that, settings. So I'm going to switch off or disable the JavaScript in my browser and navigate to Facebook and reload the page. So did you see the difference? The page is not loading. Now since we have disabled the JavaScript manually, go and enable it once again. Then reload it. Now it should be loaded. If you are testing kind of a single page application, you need to test like this as well. You disable the JavaScript on your browser and check. So we have enabled it once again. Now it's loading. But such occurrences of I will get back to this slide. But such occurrences of JavaScript failures can happen due to various reasons, such as browser issues. Therefore, that is the major disadvantage of single page application. There could be instances where memory leaks can happen as well. As of now, you know actually what CSR and SPA are, client server rendering and single page applications are, and their advantages and disadvantages. Can a web application be on a client server rendering based single page? So what do you think? Don't they need the help of server-side rendering as well? But before that, what is server-side rendering? As you now know what client-side rendering is, it would not be that difficult for you to guess what is server-side rendering could. It is the right opposite of client-side rendering. Here, the server renders your application on the server and send it as a response when client requests it. So the major difference is render is happening on the server. Browser is just displaying the rendered response, and nothing happens in the browser end with respect to rendering. In page navigations, each of it needs to be handled via a separate request to the server. As I told you, Facebook is a single page application. So in single page application, the pages are not getting reloaded in page navigations. Here they are not reloading. Whereas in traditional applications, the pages will be reloaded in page navigations like this. Also, each page is reloading in page navigation. Up to now, you know a few things. What is a single page application, the difference between CSR and SSR. And now let's see what do most of the front end adhere to? As I mentioned in the slide, they do bit of both. So what do you mean? Let's say we have a client-side rendered single page application, and our single page application is JavaScript based React application. So why do they need bit of server-side rendering or SSR in it? Now I am going to tell you the reason. Let's imagine that you have an e-commerce platform and it's of the specification that I have described above. Think of it from the business perspective. Now, as the vendor, you need your web application to list at the top of the Google searches. So, you need search engine optimization to be used to make your site ranked up in Google searches. There comes the reason for us to use bit of both. Search engines use web crawlers to search and index pages of the internet. Web crawlers support very little, if any, JavaScript. Therefore, SEO or search engine optimization is a major challenge for client-server rendering applications. On the other hand, SSR apps are very compatible with web crawlers, as the page content is already rendered when visited by them. So, to support SEO or search engine optimization, most of the web application comes by default SSR enabled, server-side rendering enabled. But remember, it is not fully SSR or CSR. It's the bit of both. Therefore, as a tester, we should be mindful about the behavior. So we should test that scenario as well. If you are testing an application as an e-commerce site, you have to test whether it supports for search engine optimization as well, as it has used combination of both SSR and CSR. That is a significant point that you should pay high attention as someone who is testing these new front ends. The behavior should be like when you turn off the JavaScript from the browser, content should be still loaded successfully, but not the functionality, since JavaScript is disabled. So, living up to the technology transformations. I will walk you through some novel techniques that many of these new front-end UIs support in order to provide better user experience. So this is skeleton loading. So all of us have heard that word skeleton, right? So skeleton can be referred to as the basic structural frame in general terms. So the same thing can be applied when it comes into technical terminology as well. All these techniques and technologies what I'm talking today are like parts of a single chain, complements each other. Little while earlier we spoke about single page application which uses client server rendering or CSR. Therefore, such applications at the initial load takes some time to get it rendered. That is how it works in CSR. So while the user waits in front of their devices until the application loads, we need to make them feel that it won't take much time for this application to load. And to make them feel such, we use a little trick. That trick is called skeleton loading. The whole purpose of it is not to disturb the user experience. Therefore, until the actual components in the DOM is getting rendered, we show the skeleton to the end user. And if you are testing an application which is using this technology, skeleton loading, you have to test that as well. So, I am pretty sure many of you have a LinkedIn. In a day, you are experiencing a slow network. Go to the LinkedIn and there you can clearly see a skeleton loader. What is in this slide is such captured image from LinkedIn. So let me show how it is done using LinkedIn. You navigate to this LinkedIn page and press F12 to get the dev tool, and then navigate to network tab. I will do that. Go to network tab and please make the network speed as slow 3G. and reload the page. And the skeleton of frame will load at the first. So you can observe this when the network is very slow. So here the skeleton is loading. So let me say frame is loading at the first. So simply this lets the user know what is happening on the screen. The user assumes this as the application is booting up and the content is loading actually. So this is lazy loading. This is another similar technique trending with these front-end tidal waves. So what does it really mean? Sometimes you find large images in some web applications. Sometimes people nowadays tends to use high quality, larger sized images to better show their content. Do you think such images are loaded at once? Actually, they are not. They are loading step by step. The picture in the slide, you need to read it from bottom right to left and then first row. You can understand it by yourself, and let me show how it works. So if you're testing an application which is using this technology, you have to test this like I am explaining here as well. So I'm going to the site coffee cups, and I'm going to open the dev tools and navigate to the performance tab, and we are going to profile that. You can see the stack trace of the image. Like this, when you scroll from left to right, you can see the image is getting fully loaded. Like this. Here the image is getting fully loaded. And there is another way of doing the same. And again, open up the dev tools again. And click on, I have installed here the Lighthouse tool. Click on Lighthouse tool and select desktop and click on generate report and run the report. So apart from the image stack trace, via this you can get a lot of other insights about your site, such as loading time of different components and many more as well. And here click on view original trace. Here also you can see the stack trace. So you can see the image loading process from the beginning. Here its image has not loaded yet. Here gradually it is loading. So you can see the image loading process from the beginning, from here to here in this stack trace. And also you can get the same thing with the mobile view as well, as I shown before. As I'm here, I have previously selected desktop. You can select as mobile. Then you can get the same thing in mobile view as well if you select mobile option from Lighthouse. simply, lazy loading refers the loading of an image that is not needed on the page immediately. An image not visible to the user when the page loads. It is loaded later when the user scrolls and the image actually becomes visible. If the user never scrolls, an image that is not visible to the user and never gets loaded. So I think so far I spoke a lot. So let's try to summarize everything in the last minute. First one, difference between integration testing and testing integration. And what is testing integration? Single page application, client-side rendering, and server-side rendering. And CSR versus SSR, skeleton loading, and then last, lazy loading. And that brings us to the end. And thank you so much for your interest and attention.